Studio Hacks Officer Felipe Reyes, and y'all are going to soon be introduced to Rhino if you haven't. And to my understanding, I know most of y'all don't know how to use Rhino. Some of y'all might have already messed around with it, played around with it, which is a good thing. But for those of y'all that haven't, I'm just gonna run through how to go about doing simple stuff in Rhino, basically. I mean, really, it's just how to do a box, how to do lines, things of that nature. They're going to be helpful once you start your body mapping exercise, and then obviously once you start actually modeling out more than just the body mapping exercise in Rhino. So first and foremost, you gotta open Rhino. So here I have my little Rhino tab. Click on it, and my computer's slow, so it's pretty tough. You'll be able to get a lot of these. It'll open by itself. Um, so first and foremost, we're just gonna go over some of the interface things. So an example of this would be just going to File and going to Properties. And essentially, these are just the properties of the document that you're working on, or like the Rhino file that you're working on. One of the most important ones is going to be units. In units, you have your model units and your layout units. A lot of the times you're going to want to change your model units. Your layout units aren't super important. For model units, I'm assuming most of y'all measured in feet and inches. Depending on your preference, the way you'll be able to change that is model units and be able to essentially go to feet right here or inches. You could work even in miles or in meters, centimeters, kilometers, even in light years, which is insane. But regardless, you're more or less likely to use feet and inches rather than metric system. You're more likely to use imperial system, which is more feet and inches. For this case, let's use feet. Let's use inches. Let's use feet. Let's use feet. Let's just use feet. And for absolute tolerance, this is just saying how many units or what's the tolerance of accuracy. A friend told me once that the best way you could do it is just to add a bunch of zeros, but not like too many zeros. Try to also match it up with the display distance. So you wanna. This is just a distance display. So whenever you're working and you measure something out or you model something out, it's gonna tell you either in decimal form, which is here, in fractions. So you can have a 16th of an inch or a 16th of a foot and the 1/28th. And then feet and inches is just a little bit more precise in the way it's showing, I guess. I've never actually used feet and inches. I wouldn't really recommend it. The one I recommend the most is decimal. And this is going back to where absolute tolerance is just essentially the more zeros you put in it, the more accurate it's going to be. So you definitely want to choose display precision all the way down here because it's going to be as accurate. It's literally going to be like as close as possible and as accurate as possible. And you just want to count the zeros. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 zeros. So here you want to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then angle tolerance, just leave it at 1 degree. You can mess with that later if you're gonna work a lot with angles for your future projects in Rhino. But for now, I just leave it at one. Something else that you can do in properties is change some of the background. You could change the command prompt, the command prompt, what you call it, the font of the command prompts. So just show you, let's just do Joker Man, and you see right there it changed to Joker Man, and then you want to choose one that's readable, and this is the one that Rhino usually comes with. Text size, you could mess with it, do 15, it comes out really big. 5. Oh, you could even change the color of it. But you could just put 10 for now, and you'll be alright. Background, you can change the backgrounds. As you can see, my background is changing depending on the color. These are just preference things. Even the text color you can change to like red, pink, so if you like pink. Favorite color is pink. Hover color, it's not too important. This one doesn't really do a whole lot. If you want to go deeper into it, these are even like there's the dark mode, light mode, and custom, which I would recommend everyone just do dark mode. It's just way easier on the eyes. But it's up to you. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your properties. This is what you can mess with. Widget colors, and these axis lines are essentially these lines that are right here. So that green and that red, but it's also important to note that it's not just the green and red that you have working with. You also have a blue, which is your essentially your Z line. So you have an X, Y's, obviously, and then you have your Z to be for volume for 3D objects. And you can change the colors of those. I mean, I'm pretty sure this one, let's just do something like you can see it's changing the color of it. Whoa, my bad, guys. You can see it's just like you're like messing with the color. You can change it pink even. Um, Same thing with this line. There's like aquamarine. You can change the colors of those. Selected objects, you can change the color of your selected objects. You can do cyan, aquamarine. And essentially when you select the object, the outline of the object is going to display that specific color. You can do your crosshairs, which crosshairs are really useful to have. Hmm. It's sometimes they're useful, sometimes they're not. At the end of the day, it's just preferences. A lot of it is just how you want to have your model. I mean, or how you want to model. Right now, kind of mess with it. I like having the little. I like having my dark gray. It's easier to see things, but that's also preferences. A lot of this is just preferences. And something else that's important is aliases. So aliases, these are a little bit more complicated to understand. But essentially, there's commands in Rhino that are inputted up here, and they have a specific way to be that they're written out. But if with aliases, you can essentially assign a command with you can essentially assign a command with um, a shortcut code. So an example of this would be if I want to do axonometrics. So I was able to, well, I wasn't able to, but we were given a command to be able to create these axonometrics. And what I did was, I mean, in Rhino, and what I did was I copied and pasted that command into an alias, which is basically a shortcut key. So now every time I click AX, any object that I have here will be able to turn into, I mean, will be able to be into an axonometric. So yeah, I mean, they're really useful instead of having to input the whole command or memorize how to do axonometrics or memorize how to do certain commands. It's just quick and easy. Just put in the shortcut and the command happens. Now, I wouldn't, you can mess with these I'd leave the ones that are here. And obviously you can make your own in the future, and I would recommend so. But obviously tailor it to what your needs are. Don't necessarily copy the ones I have because the ones I have aren't necessarily going to work for you. Everyone has a different way of working in Rhino. So yeah, and then obviously you want to save everything before you exit out. So a little bit of a mess up on my part. So let's just go back. As you can see, yep, you want to go to feet again. Let's do 0 0.123456781. And then you want to go down to this one. And I didn't do it. Hold on, give me a second, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Now it's safe. And then go back to appearance. Always make sure that you save everything before you dip out, especially here in Rhino, because a lot of the changes might be made, might not be made. It's just very weird or dependent on a lot of things. Okay. And then, yep. should be good for now, just for basic purposes. So in Rhino, you have three views. You have your top view, you have a front view, right view, and your perspective, which is essentially just the one where you can maneuver and see all four sides and bottom and top. So to be able to isolate each of them, you just have to double click and double click out, double click and double click out right on the name. And on this side, you have your layers. So just for an example, let's figure out how to do a box. So here you have your box corner to corner box command. As you can see, my crosshairs are working. And let's just do a box. So we'll just do a random box, random, and we can transition here. And there you go. You have a box. Now, obviously, going into layers, the box, the layer that the box is on is just on default. So you just go to box, and then let's say you want to just add another box in a different layer. Let's just say box 2. So now you want to double click here. Now the layer is active. And to help y'all out a little bit, you can even, and to help y'all out a little bit, you can double click this black square and you can change the color of the of the layer. And not only does it change the color of the layer for color coding purposes, but, and here's the box command right here, but it'll also change the color of the lines of the box. Now, right now you're seeing lines, but something that's important is you can't Rhino you cannot just only see lines. You could also see shaded. So you want to down click this little handy dandy thing right next to perspective and go to shaded, and now you have colored boxes. Or now you have shaded boxes per se. Now you can see the volumetric box basically. And you have other ones. You have ghosted, which essentially you can see right through, but you can still see a little bit of the shade. You have X-ray, which is basically similar to ghosted, except instead of it having the semi-transparent face, the face is just fully transparent essentially. Shows you the lines and the box itself. You have technical, which will show you hidden lines as dotted lines and your outside lines. You have artistic, which you'll rarely use, but if it decides to load up, yep, it basically looks like a sketch and it gives you shadows and everything. And you have pin, which is just same thing as sketch but in pin, for lack of better words. You have monochrome, which is almost like a rendered version, but it gives you line weights. I wouldn't recommend using this though. I'd recommend doing line weights in Illustrator always because these aren't always the most accurate, and plus you have to remove the shading and that takes a while. And then you have your rendered mode, which is just how it looks like in rendered. Right now there's just going to be white boxes since there's no textures applied to it. Ray trace is the actual rendering process, so I wouldn't go about doing this one. And then you have Arctic, which Arctic mode is essentially the same thing, except it just the view is just slightly different, and textures don't necessarily apply in Arctic view. So for now, we'll just stick to shaded, and you have to change each of these individually, as you can see right here, right here. So yeah, and now going on to the next thing, let's just click into perspective for now, just show you. There are these things at the bottom. There's grid snap, ortho, planar, O snap, smart track, gumball. You want to keep your gumball on because then it just looks like this. When you turn the gumball on, it helps you move things a lot easier than just without it, where you're just like, ah. Now smart track, I'm trying to remember what smart track does. I cannot remember. I am sorry guys. I am not the best at this. But you do have OSNAP, and OSNAP is pretty important, and I'll cover that in another video. Actually, I'll cover it right now. I'll just cover it right now. So O snap, if you turned it off, essentially you don't really know where you're selecting. So pressing on move for the move command, or you can also type in move. But here it's like I want to select this point right here, but it won't really let me, and I can't be as precise whenever I'm placing it. And Control Z, and I'm using Control Z to undo what previously has been done. When you open OSnap, it gives you this, which is in, near, point, mid, center, interception point, perpendicular, tan. I can actually go over it. Endpoint object snap, near to object, point object, midpoint snap, center object, intersection, perpendicular, tangent, quadrant, knot, vertex, project, and project, which we'll talk about project in a different video. But for now, this will help me actually be able to move this object in a more precise location. And not only that, but it will also allow me to grab the midpoint and move it to different midpoint and do that. Or if let's say I move the box up and I want to move it perpendicularly, I can do that and it'll be perpendicular, so straight down, and it'll still connect with the box. And that's basically kind of just the basic intro to Rhino. Um, Before I actually end the video, there's grid snap, which this would be better in top view, which you can access your views from down here as well. And go to top view, and let's just move this and this out the way. So here you can make a rectangle corner to corner. So here you can see that my mouse is clicking or snapping to the grids. Now we take off grid snap, you can see that it doesn't do that. It's just, I can make a box like right here, super imprecise. I would recommend doing grid snap if you want to be as precise as possible, especially if you're doing, if you ever do grid systems or something similar to that. So here, obviously, you can see that it snaps, and then you could do five, a five, and then there's your rectangle. And it's more precise than doing it without the grid snap. But a lot of the time, you'll notice that when you're working in Rhino, there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer to doing certain things. Um, it just is mainly your pace. I would recommend definitely just messing with it a lot more. And yeah, that's basically it. This is just a simple intro to Rhino, nothing too deep. Just covering as much as I can in basically like 20 minutes. You can speed through this video, skip through it, see what's up. But eventually, I'll end up being able to make videos about specifics in Rhino, maybe things here or there that you could try out to do. But yeah, that's basically it. So hopefully this was at least somewhat helpful. And I'll probably be putting out more videos. This is Studio Hacks Officer Felipe Reyes. Hopefully I'll watch all the way to the end. And I will be posting more of these as most likely QR codes around your studio. So yeah. My email is felreyes@ttu.edu. So FELREYES at ttu.edu if you want to ask me any questions. I'll try to answer you as quickly as possible. Obviously, I'm not necessarily getting paid to do this. I'm just doing this for the club and for y'all's benefit so that y'all can receive help. Because I know most of y'all, a lot of y'all do not know how to use Rhino. And it's always useful to at least have someone that you can go to that can teach you Rhino. So hopefully, y'all can come to me, ask me questions. And yep, I hope y'all have a good day and good luck on y'all's project.